Yes. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 7th episode of Ms.shelved. My name is Maura.
My name is Linda.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about short stories, and essay collections. So what have you got? What do you have to recommend today for an essay collection?
So my book of essays to recommend is How to Be a Woman by Caitlin Moran. This is a bunch of writing about, it's sort of memoirish in a way. There's a lot of stuff about growing up and her experiences being a woman, but also just sort of things about, being a woman in society. What I love about this is, well, it's hilarious. She's very, very funny. But also, reading this book made me feel like I was 20 years old again and discovering feminism for the first time. And I wanted to get up in a chair and be like, girl power or whatever. It's compared a lot with Tina Fey's Bossy Pants, and in some ways it is in that same vein in that the topics and themes are very similar.
And that's a well-loved, funny essay collection.
Yeah, and this is a little different in that, sort of the tone and style. So, for instance, she swears a lot, and there's a lot of, graphic descriptions of things having to do with being a woman, such as childbirth and things like that. She does not shy away from things or from using words. There's a whole section where she talks about the different words you can use to describe your lady parts. So if you don't, like hearing certain words, this may not be for you. It's definitely not for everyone, but if you don't mind salty language and you like, a good feminist rant, as I do, it's fantastic.
Sign me up.
Yeah. And she writes other things as well. She wrote a novel that I also read, How to Build a Girl, which was great. She has a new book.
Girl, that's it.
Yep, she has a new book coming out called More Anthology. I don't know if it's out yet, but it's out soon. So she's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, so what about you? Do you have a book of essays to recommend?
I do. I would like to talk about The Empathy Exams by Leslie Jamison. This is a really wonderful collection of essays that all kind of explores the ideas of pain, suffering, empathy, and how do we understand both our own pain and suffering and others. So one of the standout essays in this is about Leslie goes to a meeting, kind of like a conference of people suffering from Morgellons disease, which is the idea that you have little things underneath your skin, like fibers or irritants that you spend a lot of time itching and picking at and try to get out. So her exploring, is this a psychological disorder? While the people who are experiencing it have real physical symptoms. So kind of trying to understand how this disease impacts people and expending that empathy. It's really well written, and it's very international in scope. She also goes to Mexico and looks at some of the people who have lost children to murder and violence and the drug crimes that have been down there. So there's a lot of exploration on how can we understand someone's pain as well. But it's interesting that you said this memoir, because I think essays in this sort of genre we're talking about are a lot of these sort of shorter form personal stories, applying it to sort of broader themes and what's happening in the world. So I definitely recommend this book. It's one of my go-tos.
Nice.
All right. So what about short stories?
So the book that I want to recommend is Thunderstruck and Other Stories by Elizabeth McCracken.
Which is one of my favorite last names. I love it.
I
think she has a great name.
I really enjoy saying her name. I also really enjoy reading her books. I've read them all and they're amazing. I think what I love the most, her characters are really, really quirky, but not too quirky to be realistic. They do seem super real. And her observations and descriptions are so they're clever and refreshing, and sometimes I find them kind of jarring in a good way. I never looked at it like that. So that's really fantastic. I just found reading this she crams so much into a few pages. There's a story it's 16 pages long, and when I finished it, I just sat there thinking okay, I feel like I know everything about these people and their lives and what they're going through and their backgrounds. And, how did she manage to fit in all of this, everything about them, and have such clever, witty language, but it doesn't feel dense or stuffed. It's it felt very easy to read, but there's just so much there. I don't know how she does it.
I think that's like the marker of a good short story. I was thinking about that, of like what, like the short stories that I remember and that linger with me, and it's because it's like a slice of life, but yet you still kind of, it's a slice of time, but you still get the whole idea of the life and wondering what happens to the characters after.
And it's, you know, because they're so short, but they're trying to get so much across, it's like every word is very well chosen. They're just like exquisitely crafted. And she's amazing. She also writes novels. She also wrote a memoir. Like everything of hers is amazing.
That the memoir an exact
figment of a replica? An exact replica of a figment of my imagination.
Right, I read that.
It's fantastic. Anyway, everything she writes is wonderful. So I love it.
Great.
So what do you have for short stories?
Well, I would like to talk to you about Nathan Englander's What We Talk About When We Talk About Anne Frank. And this collection came out a few years ago in 2012. One of my favorite short stories in this book is Free Fruit for Young Widows, which I believe takes place in Egypt. And I read that when it was published in 2010 in New Yorker, and I was just like, well, like what other short story could possibly top this one? But I love this collection because it's really engaging with the lives, you know, that sort of glimpse into the lives of people, and their relationship with others, their relationships with themselves. The title story has just really, you know, based on like the Raymond Carver short story, a spin on that, just really snappy dialogue that's interesting, engaging. I mean, and you can see yourself that you'd be, you know, maybe at a dinner party with this conversation that's going on, and it also has like a play-like sort of a dramatic kind of pacing in a way that you could also see it being performed as a play. It's been a while since I've
that got a lot of great press when it came out. The reviews were really excellent.
Yeah, so I think he does a great job of capturing, you know, these snippets of like the human experience, and setting. One of the things I like about reading is how it can take me to other places, so I can explore the commonalities in the human experience with people who maybe are living in Egypt or Israel, but also through situations that maybe are very unique to that particular place, and which I think he does a great job of that in this book. Yeah.
So I also just wanted to mention, there have been a few like fairly recent examples of books that were, they're like short stories, but they're all connected. And in the 3 examples that I can think of, it's all like there's one character that's sort of followed, but the stories are different. Like they're told, like some are first person, some are third person, some are from that person's point of view, some are like other people in that person's life, you know, and some experience about them, but this person appears somewhere. So I think the one that's the most well-known is Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. But there are a couple others. Last year, I think, it came out. There's a book called Kitchens of the Great Midwest by J. Ryan Stradell.
That did. There was a lot of buzz around that. A lot of librarians I knew were really into that book.
Yeah, and it was, if you're a foodie, like, it's awesome because it's following this girl who had, like, a very unusual palate and grew up to be, like, a chef. And it just... it was really wonderful. And then I just recently read, although it's older, Moral Disorder and Other Stories by Margaret Atwood, which also follow one character, which I was reading stories, like, I would read a story in between other books, so I wasn't reading them all at once, and I was like halfway through the book before I realized that it was actually all about one person. So that's really interesting, I think, as a format, you know, because it's not really a novel, but it's you know, it's short stories, but they're all about the same thing. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that point of view.
Yeah. So if readers come into the library looking for this type of writing, where should they look?
So we have a section in the fiction room. If you walk into the fiction room, it's right on the right. It's a short story collection. Everything has a SS label. Hopefully our viewers can see that for short story. And I think these Best American Short Stories are a really great place to start. So they collect the best short stories from like the New Yorker, the Atlantic, Plowshares, Tin House, literary journals, and usually there's an editor, a guest editor who writes an introduction. So it's really, I I just think these are really such great ways to dive into the genre. I also really like to give these to folks who, for whatever reason, say they can't find the time to read anymore. Oh, I used to read novels. I'm just having a hard time getting into a book. I thought this was true after my daughter was born. So for new parents, I especially like to recommend short story collections because you get the satisfaction of finishing something in maybe a night or 2 or 3, but without the commitment of 300 pages.
And if you set it aside for a few days and then go back to it, you don't have to worry about remembering what you read last time.
Right.
Because it's going to be something.
So I recommend checking these out.
And we should mention that the short story section is anthologies. So
that's a good
book
point.
of short stories that's all by one author, like this one by Elizabeth McCracken, is just going to be in fiction under McCracken.
Yeah, the same with Nathan.
Yep.
Englander. On a first name basis.
And so essays. Now where
essays?
Oh, that one's not a library
That
book.
one's my book.
So
Essays,
mine is from the paperback section. But
essays tend to be like 814 in
Yeah.
the literary section upstairs on the 3rd
and
floor.
sometimes if they tend to be on a topic, so like I know this version of the Caitlin Moran book is actually from the paperback section, but the ones that are not paperback are actually in the 300s because it's under like sort of women's issues and feminism. So if you don't find something in 814, or if you want essays on a particular topic, that's something that, look up in the library catalog or ask us.
And we'd love to help.
We would.
All of our librarians.
That's why
love
we're
to
here.
Help you find your next great read. Well, thanks for.
I think that's it for now.
Yeah.
So
all about shorts.
Yeah. So our next episode, we're going to talk about humor. So if you are looking for books that are funny, which many of you are, because that's a very common question we get, we're going to have some really great recommendations. So
That's
tune
true.
in again, and bye for now.
Yeah, thanks. And a P.S. Hope to see you all at the Arlington Book Festival on Saturday, November 5th, where we'll have some panels on memoir, research and writing, as well as different forms. So one of our panelists actually has some experience writing flash fiction, which is very short stories. So I'm excited about that.
So don't miss it.
Hope to see you there. Bye.
Bye.